the game is based on a sort of alternate reality. We wanted to create a soundtrack that kind of brought in elements of that 60s, like where the timeline split.
Well, as far as the style of the game and the music, the brilliance of that came from Q Games and Dylan.
It has such a signature look and feel. We knew we wanted to create a signature sound for it.
There's two sides to this score. There's the propaganda music, which is the voice of the void world, which is where you are as you're playing. Then there's this really dark, kind of mechanized, almost desolate synth component to the score.
And the exciting part is the opportunities where those two different worlds end up meeting, because ultimately that's the sound of Tomorrow's Children.
Propaganda music, I think, evolved from originally thinking we would license something and then realizing that we could do something even more original and better for the game if we just did it ourselves.
So the cues start coming in, and when I first heard them, I was like, this is really great stuff. But when it really sunk in is when I walked out of my office to kind of just get away from the game for a few minutes, and I'd go out in the house singing the songs and be like, this is the perfect propaganda music. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to do to me.
Generally, it tends to be pretty heavy, and but not in a dark way. Like it's heavy in an inspirational, kind of light, cheerful.
As far as the lore of the game, we're in this world called the Void, and there's a language that was invented for this world, and it's a sort of a faux Russian-sounding language.
They gave me some snippets of spoken word in this language, and I had to kind of set it to the choral text and to the melody lines, and just made them, so the accents and the syllables and everything lined up with Joel's melodies in the right ways.
And we were able to record the choir remotely. So we stayed here in the United States, and the choir was recorded at Abbey Road Studios in London.
We were kind of huddled around a Mac, in Kyoto, while they're, in the studio in London, and just listening in on headphones.
And the remote thing, I'm so happy that the world's gotten so small that we can do a small session with some of the greatest musicians in the world right here, not having to go anywhere.
So the synth music is a huge side of this score.
So I created an atmospheric soundtrack earlier on, just with synthesizers as well. That was just really weird and sort of otherworldly as well, and that kind of helped set the tone.
So not necessarily trying to be other instruments, or finding the soul of the machine and figuring out how to say something in a way that isn't necessarily reliant on themes or melodies.
So the challenge for us is to try and find a composer that's able to be successful in both of those styles.
But we knew it was going to be a challenge because we had these two different, potentially competing different styles. Our goal from the beginning was to find one composer to really own the sound of the game.
And we found the perfect person, which is Joel Corlett. And Joel has done a couple of other really interesting scores for us in the past for the Unfinished Swan. He also did some original music for Hohokum, and he's just a natural fit for the Tomorrow Children.
There's a lot in there. There's a lot of ear candy, and I really worked hard to try to develop new sounds.
I would say in this project that everything audio that's gone into it, especially with the music, is unique.
This project is really emblematic of taking advantage of our new production facilities here, and then also tapping into talent on a worldwide basis, like the cultural differences, right, and the location differences, and the language differences, and the different, cultural references that we have. But ultimately what that does, it makes the whole process that much richer.
I think that was the main benefit, really. And I think without having the international, corporation, it would have been impossible to do.
When you listen to it, you can just hear that this is an aesthetic that is not solely unique to Japan. It's not solely unique to American music, but it's a hybrid.
I love the music myself. I would think it might be worth it to hang out there for a few seconds and listen to a little bit more of the music because it's fun. And that's why we wrote it, to get everybody riled up and roused. Purely propaganda. So that's my propaganda for the game.
PlayStation